have an interest in creating an amazing invention, I think this would be fabulous. I think it would change our whole world. You see, what I have in mind is simply an invention that would monitor our dreams. And when we're having one of those really amazing dreams, really great dreams, you know, those wonderful dreams where we're having some adventure. Maybe we're in Tahiti at the beach on a cold winter day, but we're enjoying the sunshine. Maybe we're having this fabulous dream of great success, or maybe we're having a dream of some way that we're all in love and how wonderful the world is, and oh, we hate it when those dreams stop and someone wakes us up. How about an invention that monitors our dreams, and that just when you're having this really good dream, it shuts the alarm off automatically and allows you to sleep in. It also pops up a sign so anyone else who comes into the room says, please don't wake me up, I'm having a really great dream. How wonderful that would be. Can you imagine how great that would be for our lives? But wait a minute, maybe what if one of our greatest dreams is a dream of waking up? What if our greatest vision, our greatest aspiration, the dream that rises from our subconscious, is really a dream of waking up? Waking up to something amazing, waking up to something wonderful, waking up to a world that works for everyone, not just a few, waking up to the amazing presence of the divine, waking up to God. How wonderful that would be. The psalmist today is inviting us to do just that, to visualize a great dream of waking up with God within, saying, let God arise, let God awaken within you, to wake up to this wonderful divine presence that's at work within our lives, that is so consuming us that we are actually transformed. All this goodness that we've been thinking about is now taking place within us. Wake up to that. How wonderful that could be. Or this weekend, as we celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, we often reflect on his I Have a Dream speech. And his great dream of awakening a world to the possibilities of equality, justice, living in harmony and in unity with one another. How wonderful that vision was as he tried to awaken the world to an understanding of the great possibilities that were there. He writes, but we refuse to believe that the blank check of justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity for this nation. And so we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. Ooh, what a dream. He painted a picture of us claiming the very best for our lives. He painted a dream for us that we might live and awaken to the possibilities of what a world might be that works for everyone, not just a few. You understand that every dream actually can be a realization, realized by those who are actually self-disciplined enough to believe in it. Today, the Spirit of God is calling us to awaken to this wonderful dream. The dream that Martin Luther King painted a picture of. The dream that so many others down through the ages have painted a picture of. The dream that the psalmist has painted a picture of. That's the dream of awakening to God within. Because when we do, there's an incredible transformation that happens in our lives. It was this wonderful thing that happens within us when God reigns, rules over all of our thought process, all of our words, our actions, our deeds. The world becomes transformed by the way that we live and operate. Oh, when we live out that dream. That's our dream for today. Let God arise. Let God be awakened. It's the dream, actually, of waking up. If we're going to have a dream that really then is this, that has been painted for us in so many wonderful writings, or painted for us in the words of Martin Luther King, then we have to be the people that are welcoming that dream, holding, bearers of the dream, creators of the dream, manifestors of the dream, those who say this dream is something I will own and live and believe from the depths of my heart. And I'm going to make some choices. I'm going to choose that this dream is real and manifests and becomes a reality. We look at a world that Martin Luther King was describing of injustice, of segregation, of racism, of separation. We see those echoing down through the ages today, that we live in worlds of separation. Where people want to say, you're not like me, I'm different, we separate ourselves, we categorize ourselves. Oh, how sad to see that word of separation flashed across the thought processes of so many people. Dividing, putting up barriers, people who want to build walls and create even more barriers in the society and the world around us. So we can make a choice. We can make a choice to see people as God sees them. Make a choice to choose to look at one another in new ways that bring down walls and take down barriers. We're invited to let God arise and God be the very essence of how we view the world around us. For we have a choice in how we view people. We have a choice. Strangely, we make a clear choice about how we view others before we actually will make any objective change. So we have to make a choice about how we see one another in this world. If we want to bring about a sense of harmony, if we want to usher in unity, if we want to bring an end to racism, if we want to bring an end to any kind of words of separation, we have to make that choice within us. You might say, we've got to be blind to those things that may be that bring out the issues of separation or differences. We may have to be blinded in some ways, and Scripture actually invites us to a journey of looking in new ways. You may say, I have to be blinded to be able to not see, but to see in new ways. Well, let me say how confusing that may be, and let me explain it for you. For Isaiah writes in chapter 42 this beautiful phrase, this is the essence of God, behold, former things have come to pass, but I declare that God is making a new thing. I declare new things. I am making that way. And I will lead those who are blind or choose not to see by the way that they will know not, and in paths that they have not known. And I will help them to walk. And I will make darkness light before them. Those who choose to be blind to anything but good. Now that's the choice. Blind to anything but good. Blind to anything that says, I'm not seeing anything but good, are being led by God. And they are seeing the new things that God is doing. So when we look at one another, to be able to awaken God within us, we see the new things God is doing. And we have fresh impressions and fresh understandings. For the writer of this psalm is giving us all the material we need to choose to be blind to anything but that is the absence of God. To be blind to anything that's the absence of good. I can't see it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know it. I don't want to be part of it. Now, that's not sticking your head in sand. It's simply making a choice to say, I want to view the world from God's eyes and perspective, not from man's, not from the humanness of the world around us. And so the writer of this psalm is giving us all the material we need that says, here's the goods. God's doing a new thing. Always open your eyes to seeing that. Every day, God's doing a new thing. No matter what happened yesterday, God's doing a new thing today. No matter what your yesterdays were encompassing, and no matter what those relationships or issues that you had with people, God is ever opening opportunities to do a new thing. In our world of integration, where we're rubbing shoulders with people who are unique, different than us. We may have formed ideas in our past, but God's doing a new thing. To have a fresh, open heart to every experience and not carrying on the judgments of others of pasts, but to be open to say, what new thing can I have in this experience with this person, with my neighbor, with those around me, with my coworkers, with those that I engage with? You see, God is doing a new thing, and that God will lead us in a way to see that if we're willing, and that God will shed light on darkness. For you see, the perfect man judges not by appearance. The perfect person, man or woman, was those who don't judge the world by any kind of appearances, but considers the good in what is happening right here and now. That's what they consider. And welcomes righteous thinking or right thinking. Welcomes the truth of God, of this one power that is all-powerful, ever-knowing, and ever-present in our world and our lives. Perfect man or woman sees others as he desires them to be. If we're going to end all of this separation and bring people into unity, into oneness, we have to turn to one another and say, I am looking at you and seeing you in the way that I desire you to be, with a heart of love, companionship, friendship. Can you imagine if you looked at everybody and saw them as your friend? Every single person, everyone, even your worst enemies, you began to see them as the way you desire to see them and how it transforms your life. That's the awakening of this divine presence. God sees no separation. We do in our humanness. We're so quick to name every kind of difference, the wall or barrier. But God just sees us in the harmony and unity of oneness with one another. So what if we desire to see one another in that same context? That we desire to see everyone not as an enemy, not as an obstacle, not as a barrier, but to see them as a collaborator or co-worker or great friend. For this person, in that kind of thinking, that person has no condemnation. There's no condemnation. Now, Jesus said, I came into the world not to condemn the world. He was not a condemner. He didn't come with the context of judgment, of separation in any way whatsoever. Oh no, Jesus was the uniter, bringing people into the sense of, I see the very best in you. I see that which is great within you. I see possibilities within you. And I bring together these Gentiles and Jews, which may have been on opposites of religious thinking or cultural context. I bring together these women and these men together in a world where there was a lot of patriarchal thinking and separation between men and women. Jesus uniting people of different ways of thinking and bringing them together. Those who may have passed judgments on the tax collectors are now sitting and celebrating with those who are religious leaders of the day. Oh, that's the journey where Jesus began to see people as he desired them to be. And so it is as he called up disciples. Those disciples, they had all kinds of challenges in their world. They were fishermen or tax collectors. They had different careers or jobs. Oh, but as Jesus called them out, he said, I see the possibility of making you a great success, a fisher of men. I see the potential in your life. I see what you can be. Now, how do we do this? How do we do this in a way that we see what we desire in one another's lives? Because, trust me, we've encountered some people that, well, we don't really like them that well. There's our humanness. I know that. There's people who rub us wrong. There's people who, irritate us. So what do? We embrace those wonderful spiritual aids of looking for the very best in every scenario. Proverbs 20, verse 8 says, a righteous man who walks in his integrity, how blessed are his sons after him. A king who sits on the throne of justice despises all evil with his eyes, or disperses it and removes it away. The king who sits on the road of justice, the person who is in the actual place of looking and viewing in a world of equality. The person who says, I desire to encompass the dream that says, I am going to help to create a world that works for everyone, not just a few. The person who does that disperses or removes evil from his or her eyes. Proverbs is inviting us to this journey of saying, we just let go and we look for the good, see the positive, and embrace that which we desire to be seen and manifested with one another. You see, Jesus walked in that way of not seeing people in limitation, but by example, invited us to see people in possibility. This kind of person then removes all those kind of false concepts of separation in their mind, and what they see now is the sleeping presence of God within each person. The sleeping presence. The presence that we have a dream of awakening one another. And we then have the possibility to awaken the divine within each other. How wonderful if we begin to look at each other and say, oh, wow, well, that person's a little crazy, but you know what? I'm looking to see the sleeping presence of God in them. And I'm going to awaken it. My words are going to invite possibilities of them awakening to something amazing in their own lives that they may not even thought were possible for them. But that's the journey I'm taking in this world. For I'm embodying this very dream, and I'm awakening to what it's like to have God within. Because we have to awaken to something first if we're going to awaken others. Let me tell you this, if you're not awake to it, you're not going to awaken anybody else. Trust me, if you're still sleeping and slumbering away today, you're not going to be able to wake anybody else up, right? So first we have to awaken ourselves. It's only when we awaken the Christ within us, when we awaken this journey within us, that we're able then to awaken the Christ in others. For we can only see what is awake within our own selves. We can't see love, it's not awake within us, right? We can't see peace if it's not awake within us. We can't see grace, it's not awake within us. We can't have joy or experience in others. We don't awaken within ourselves. Let me tell you this, it's this simple. You know, our behavior is influenced by our subconscious thinking of others. I'm going to talk a little bit about our world of separation as we talk very bluntly about racism in our cultures today. All these years, you think that we in America, we've talked about it, discussed it. We've marched for it, we've fought for it. We've lectured about it, we've written books on it. Yet somehow we still struggle with our issues of separation, racisms. We can expand it to sexisms, homophobias. We can go on with those kind of issues. What happens is our subconscious, our way of thinking, is so influenced by those day-to-day journeys of thinking and thought that come our way. And we string a succession of these thoughts about a unique tribe of people, a unique culture of people, a unique people who are different than us. And we take this string of succession of thoughts about them, and they form an attitude. You know how it is we get an attitude about someone? You know? We hear it on the news about someone. We form an attitude. African Americans may form an attitude of fear around police based on the consciousness and thinking and conversation. Euro-Americans may find some fear about the news that's maybe always highlighting some African American robbing. And we have this racial tension of opposites pulling aside. And we form an attitude then. And we repeat these attitudes over and over again, and these strings of attitudes together form our belief. And suddenly we become people who are living out a belief of separation and racism. And they eventually hardwire in our brain, and they emotionally condition our body. We actually have responses to people who are different than us, that are physical as well as mental. Because we've strung this kind of concept over and over again, we haven't had a chance to clean out our thought process. We've welcomed our experiences of the past, and what happens is we actually become kind of addicted to them. But they're only based on past memories. Did we not say that the invitation is to awaken? For God is doing a new thing every day. Awaken to say, you may have had a difficult experience with someone who is different than you in the past, but awaken to a new experience today. Awaken to seeing the slumbering presence of God within them, and awaken it as you see it from your own perspective and welcome it to be unfolded in theirs. How wonderful it is to see that we can change our beliefs of others when we change our attitudes and we change our thoughts. It's all about the choices that we make. If we want to end racism, we make a choice. The choice is to awaken the God within us and let it rise. And to see the beauty in those that are different than us. If we want to end homophobia, if we want to end all the separation terms, sexisms, and issues that go on and on that separate us, it begins when we begin to assume the feeling that we are the Christ. That's right. We assume the feeling. What does it feel like to be Jesus here and now? What would it feel like to be the Christ, the anointed one, living in this presence? And in this moment, we let our behavior be changed and influenced by this way of thinking. Let me tell you this. Others can tell what you're thinking by the way we treat you. You know that? Very true. You can tell what someone's thinking. You encounter somebody who's different than you. You encounter someone who you may have had a preconceived notion. You meet that person who's coming into your workspace who's wearing a scarf over her head or a turban, and your preconceived notions or judgments rise up. And others can tell exactly what you're thinking, because it's seen in your reactions to others. But when we assume that I have the feeling, I have the Christ. When I assume this feeling of God rising up within and the presence of God fully awake so much, and I assume it every day, until it becomes my second nature, my true nature, becomes who I am. And suddenly your response is so clear. I just love. I welcome. I accept. I see the God in one another. For I assume the feeling that I am the Christ, and it's rising up within us. And we need to do this every single day until we change those habits, change those attitudes, change those beliefs that we may have that slipped into our way of thinking because we weren't taught, we weren't born with hatred, we were taught it. We weren't born with separation concepts, we were taught them. If we're going to be world uniters, we've got to cleanse ourselves of these beliefs. And we have to wake up ourselves. And let me tell you, you can't go back to sleep once you wake up. I know in our humanness, sometimes we wake up and we roll over and we want to go right back to sleep, right? But spiritually, when we allow God to be awakened within us, we cannot go back to sleep. We must press forward. We cannot fall back asleep in some way that somehow we miss out on the greatness that's ready to unfold in our lives. We have to stay awake. And you know what keeps us awake? Our affirmations. God is good, God is love, God is at work. I see the goodness in you. I believe in the goodness in you. I know that I see the divine presence resting or asleep right now, but I'm here to awaken it. When we begin to affirm this over and over again, we shift our minds, we shift our way of thinking, and suddenly we begin to keep ourselves awake. Those affirmations become like little alarms. So, oh, check this. Get right back in order. Keep awake. And awake so much that we wake up in the morning and we look into the mirror of God and see the very reflection coming back to us. That's right. 2 Corinthians chapter 3:18 says, we all with open face, having removed the veil and beholding as we're looking into a mirror, we recognize the glory of God. And then we are transformed into that very same image, that image of God, transformed from glory to glory. So all of us who have this veil of ignorance that falls over us that says somehow we're meant to be separated, and then one day we realize, wait a minute, we're all God's children. We say that we're all God's children. Not a single one outside of that word all, right? Everyone is in when we say all. That's inclusive. We're all God's children. We remove that veil, and then we realize I'm a child of God, you're a child of God, you're a child of God. We're all children of God. Oh, wait a minute. We're looking in this mirror of realizing this wonderful divine image in me is in you. In the mirrors of the life of the world that we look around us. So all of us who have the veil of ignorance removed can see and reflect the glory of God, and this awareness makes us more and more Christ-like as we are changed, transformed, to be in the image of God, to be seen, to be in that likeness, to be blind to anything that is the absence of God. Because although God is all-seeing, God is blind. All-seeing to the all good, but blind to those things that are not that which is the power and presence of the divine at work or at sleep. But that's the way God sees and views each and every one of us. So Martin Luther King invited us to a dream. Invited us to see this dream. Visualize it, picture it. But do something more than just visualize or picture it, awaken to it. The psalmist does the same. And awakens to what it is that will unite us all, and that is to awaken the presence of God in us. The love of God that reaches beyond any kind of separation. That reaches beyond the physical views that would say there are walls or barriers that separate us. And brings us together with this beautiful view that we are transformed together from glory to glory. What does it mean from glory to glory? As this passage closes out, it's simply saying that you came from glory, right? God's presence and divine. You came to this earth to travel this journey. You were with God before you came. You were in this wonderful, glorious place. And you're here on this earth to be transformed from glory to back to glory. How wonderful this beautiful journey is. And in this journey, constantly, daily, look in the mirror and see the divine presence in you. And awaken it, awaken it, awaken it. So let's just pretend that you've been sleeping, but the alarm is going off today. Can you hear it? Ring, ring. It's awakening you. It's awakening you to this wonderful thought that if I let God arise, my whole view will change. And as I change my view, I change my world. Because I see one another differently. I act differently. I respond differently. Because all I can see is the very presence of God in you. Let's wake up one another. Turn to the person next to you and say, I see the presence of God awaken you. Amen.